Jack.
The corporate war that has been raging behind closed doors in Herzogenaurach, Germany, has finally reached its explosive conclusion. Adidas, the sportswear giant with 3 stripes that have defined football for generations, has just made a decision that will send shockwaves through the entire sporting world. This isn't just about a shoe deal. This isn't just about a contract extension. This is about the future of football marketing, the legacy of the heir to Lionel Messi, and a corporate battle that has divided boardrooms and captivated millions. Lamine Yamal, the 19-year-old World Cup winner, the teenage sensation who shattered Messi's dream on the turf of MetLife Stadium, is the most valuable asset in global football. And 2 of the biggest brands on the planet have been fighting like hungry wolves over his signature. Adidas had him first. They signed him when he was just a raw talent from Rocafonda. But Nike, the eternal rivals with the swoosh, saw an opportunity to poach the biggest star of the next generation. They prepared an offer that would make Adidas's head spin, and the battle that followed was nothing short of a corporate war. Now the dust has settled. The decision has been made, and the repercussions will be felt from the streets of Barcelona to the boardrooms of Wall Street. This is the story of how Adidas made a massive decision on Lamine Yamal's $70 million deal. This is the story of loyalty, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. And this is the story that will define the next decade of football. It was 2023 when Lamine Yamal first burst onto the scene. He was just 15 years old, a skinny kid with a magical left foot and a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Adidas, always on the lookout for the next generation of superstars, saw something special in the teenager. They saw the ghost of Messi in his dribbling. They saw the flair of Ronaldinho in his tricks. They saw the future of football in his eyes. So they made a move. They offered him a deal that was significant for a player his age, a contract worth millions over several years, with performance bonuses that could push the value even higher. At the time, it seemed like a gamble. Yamal was raw, unproven, and playing in the youth teams. But Adidas had a history of taking risks on young talent, and they believed that Yamal was the next big thing. The deal was signed. The contracts were inked, and the world moved on. But then, something extraordinary happened. Yamal didn't just become a good player, he became a phenomenon. He broke into the Barcelona first team at 16. He broke records that had stood for decades. He won the European Championships at 17. He carried Spain to the World Cup at 19. And in that devastating final in New Jersey, he shattered the dream of his idol, Lionel Messi, and became a global icon overnight. Suddenly, that deal that had seemed generous just a few years earlier looked like the bargain of the century. Yamal's market value had exploded into the stratosphere. His social media following had grown to tens of millions. His jersey sales were through the roof, and every brand on the planet wanted a piece of him. Adidas executives who had signed off on the original deal were now patting themselves on the back. They had struck gold. But they also knew that the Real challenge was just beginning. Because with success comes attention, and with attention comes rival brands circling like sharks. Nike, the eternal nemesis, was already preparing their move. While Adidas was basking in the glow of Yamal's success, Nike was quietly plotting their move. They had been tracking Yamal's progress for years. They had seen the videos of him destroying youth defenses. They had watched him dominate in the Euros, and they had witnessed his crowning moment in the World Cup final. They knew that he was the future, and they were determined to make him the face of their brand. The swoosh had a history of stealing Adidas's biggest stars. They had done it with Cristiano Ronaldo. They had done it with Kylian Mbappe. And now, they were ready to do it with Lamine Yamal. They prepared an offer that would make Adidas's head spin. A contract worth hundreds of millions of dollars, with performance bonuses, equity stakes, and creative control over his signature products. But Nike knew that money wasn't enough. They needed to win Yamal's heart. So they sent a delegation to Mataro, to Yamal's hometown. They met with his family, his friends, and his mentors. They painted a picture of a global empire that could elevate Yamal to heights he had never imagined. They promised him a signature shoe line that would rival Michael Jordan's. They promised him a starring role in their global campaigns. They promised him a connection to the legends of the game who had worn the swoosh with pride. The emotional pull was undeniable. Yamal grew up watching Ronaldinho, Neymar, and Cristiano Ronaldo, all iconic athletes who wore Nike. The swoosh represented flair, magic, and showmanship. It was the brand of the entertainers. Adidas, on the other hand, represented discipline, teamwork, and tradition. It was the brand of the winners. And Yamal, who had just won the World Cup, was caught between these two competing identities. The pressure was immense. Every day, new rumors surfaced. Every hour, new stories emerged. And Yamal, the 19-year-old world champion, had to navigate this minefield of misinformation and speculation. It was a test of his character. It was a test of his resolve. And it was a test of his loyalty to the brand that had believed in him from the beginning. Back in Herzogenaurach, the Adidas headquarters, the mood was tense. The boardroom was split into factions. One group, led by the marketing department, argued that Yamal was irreplaceable. They pointed to the data, the social media numbers, the jersey sales, and the global brand awareness that Yamal generated. They argued that losing him to Nike would be a disaster of epic proportions. They demanded that the company open the checkbook and do whatever it took to keep him. The other group, led by the finance department, saw things differently. They argued that Yamal was just one player. They pointed to the risk, the volatility, and the potential for injury. They argued that investing an astronomical sum in a single endorsement deal was corporate suicide. They warned that if Yamal's form dropped, or if he got injured, the company would be left holding a bag of worthless assets. They demanded fiscal responsibility. The debates were heated. Accusations flew across the table. Old alliances were broken, and new ones were formed. The CEO, who had been silent for much of the debate, finally stood up. He looked at both sides and delivered a verdict that would go down in corporate history. He argued that Adidas wasn't just a sports company. It was a cultural institution. It had a responsibility to protect its heritage and its icons. And Lamine Yamal was the most important icon of the next generation. He couldn't afford to lose him. The decision was made. Adidas would not only match Nike's offer, they would exceed it. They would offer Yamal a deal that would make him the highest-paid athlete in the history of the brand. They would offer him creative control over his signature products. They would offer him a stake in the company's global vision. They would make him the face of the future. The war was over. Adidas had won, but the victory came at a staggering cost. The deal was rumored to be worth upwards of $70 million, with performance bonuses that could push it even higher. It was the biggest endorsement contract in the history of football, and it was a testament to Yamal's incredible marketability and the belief that Adidas had in his future. Despite the strictest confidentiality agreements, the news leaked. It always does. Within hours of the boardroom decision, a source close to the negotiations leaked the details to a prominent journalist. The story broke like a thunderstorm. Headlines screamed around the world. Adidas makes massive decision on Yamal deal. Yamal set to become highest paid Adidas athlete ever. Nike left in the dust. Social media exploded. Fans debated the merits of the deal. Some praised Adidas for their ambition. Others criticized them for throwing away money. And Yamal, who had been quietly waiting for the outcome, was caught in the crossfire. He was suddenly the center of a global conversation about money, loyalty, and the commercialization of sport. The chaos was unprecedented. Shares of Adidas fluctuated wildly. Nike stock took a small hit as investors reacted to the news. And Yamal's agents were flooded with calls from other brands, other sponsors, and other opportunities. The floodgates had opened. But in the midst of all this noise, Yamal remained silent. He didn't comment on the leaks. He didn't confirm the reports. He just waited. He waited for the formal offer. He waited for the official decision. And he waited for the moment when he would have to make the most important choice of his young life. The pressure was immense. Every day, new rumors surfaced. Every hour, new stories emerged. And Yamal, the 19-year-old world champion, had to navigate this minefield of misinformation and speculation. It was a test of his character. It was a test of his resolve. And it was a test of his loyalty to the brand that had believed in him from the beginning. Finally, the official announcement came. Adidas had made their massive decision. They had offered Lamine Yamal a contract extension that would keep him in the three stripes for the foreseeable future. The terms were unprecedented. The money was astronomical. The commitment was absolute. And Yamal, after careful consideration, accepted. The news was met with celebration in the Adidas headquarters. The marketing team popped champagne. The finance team breathed a sigh of relief. The CEO released a statement expressing his delight. And the fans, who had been waiting with bated breath, celebrated the news. Their hero was staying with a brand that had believed in him from the beginning. But the story doesn't end there. This decision has implications far beyond the world of sportswear. It sent a message to the entire industry. Lamine Yamal is here to stay. He is not just a flash in the pan. He is not just a one-season wonder. He is the future of football, and he is building his legacy on the foundation of loyalty, hard work, and belief. The deal includes a signature shoe line that will be released later this year. It includes a global marketing campaign that will feature Yamal alongside other Adidas legends. It includes a commitment to grassroots football, with Adidas funding youth programs in Yamal's hometown of Rocafonda. It is a deal that goes beyond commerce. It is a deal that builds a legacy. And as for Nike, they will have to lick their wounds and look elsewhere. The swoosh has lost the battle for Yamal, but the war is far from over. There will be other stars. There will be other opportunities. The business of football never sleeps. But for now, the victory belongs to Adidas. They made a massive decision. They took a risk, and it has paid off. Lamine Yamal is staying with the three stripes. And the future of football marketing looks brighter than ever. Lamine Yamal has already achieved more at 19 than most players achieve in a lifetime. He has the World Cup. He has the Euros. He has the blessing of Lionel Messi. And now, he has a deal that secures his family's future for generations. But the real challenge is just beginning. The expectations will be higher than ever. The pressure will be greater than ever. And the world will be watching every step he takes.